Ladies and gentlemen, this really is one of the most important segments that I've ever done. I say that a lot because there's always groundbreaking news that I'm talking about and giving analysis on this channel. But seriously, this really is one of the most interesting and intriguing stories that really nobody's talking about. New York Times, Romney predicts Trump would win the 2024 GOP nomination if he ran for president, by Thomas Kaplan. This is like an hour ago. Senator Mitt Romney of Utah said on Tuesday, so it's Tuesday evening right now, my time, that he believed Donald J. Trump would win the Republican nomination for president if he ran for his former office in 2024. Another indication of Mr. Trump's perceived strength in the party. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's get to over 200,000 subscribers. The future is bright. Once we get a truly populist Republican Party, because I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I don't care about political parties. I'm just an American, like a human being who wants to end perpetual counterinsurgency conflicts. That's what drives me. I voted for President Trump for a number of reasons, primarily because I want to end the Bush and President Obama and Lincoln Project and smart power type of foreign policy, where you get NATO to intervene or military interventions that result in never-ending quagmires, just the most horrendous consequences. I want that to end. President Trump was reversing that foreign policy. Mittens, Romney, and Chuck Schumer, they're okay with that foreign policy. So you have President Trump presiding over the Abraham Accords, the beginning of peace between North and South Korea, prison reform legislation. He's the exact opposite of a despot or totalitarian. But you're dealing with oftentimes people who lack an understanding of history, a grasp of history, which is why Yad Vashem had to refute AOC's revisionist history, and I talk about that in the Jerusalem Post in one of my op-eds. Go to hagoodman.com. You can see my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, other publications. You can see my debates. Hit subscribe to this channel, to my Patreons. Thank you so very much. I've been talking about the fact that your support is greatly appreciated to my new Patreons. Thank you so very, very much. My Patreon is below. It's also on hagoodman.com. It's below in the pinned comment and description, especially in this time period. I mean, it's really difficult as a content creator. You've heard this from a lot of channels. A lot of people have experienced like a great deal of difficulty. Let's put it that way. And I try my best on this channel to address the algorithm, but also be myself and give you the analysis that I've been giving the past, number of years. And I just want to thank you for your support. Up until now, and this is why this segment is so important, up until now, we haven't really had an admission of reality. Mittens and Ben Sass and Adam Kinzinger, who, by the way, Adam Kinzinger voted for President Trump, voted alongside Trump 90.2% of the time, according to 538. So how are you the never Trump anti-Trumper if you voted alongside the president? You voted alongside Trump 90.2% of the time. You vote alongside President Trump 90.2% of the time, yet you're going to start a political action committee that's going to probably get millions upon millions of dollars. So the Lincoln Project people imploded. Anybody who retweeted them, that's perhaps a sign of immorality, because Democrats love to harp on morality. They're morally superior in their minds. Oftentimes, many of them feel this way. And when you look at the people that they're utilizing as the moral foundation against Trump, you have Hollywood and the Lincoln Project people. I mean, my God, you couldn't get more despicable in terms of the type of individuals we're talking about. But these are the people who served as the moral foundation. Yet Trump presided over peace deals. And he presided over prison reform legislation. President Biden wrote the crime bill that actually had a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity for a narcotic that his son allegedly utilized. but a 101 sentencing disparity, the one being a person like his son. 100 people of color to every person like his son caught with the same narcotic. That's President Biden wrote that. But see, again, Romney is actually, Mr. Romney noted that a lot can happen between now and 2024, but he added, I look at the polls, and the polls show that among the names being floated as potential contenders in 2024, if you put President Trump among Republicans, he wins in a landslide. So that is the best you can hope for at this moment. And I'll put the link below. It's something that you never thought, did you ever think, ladies and gentlemen, did you ever think that you would be hearing this from Mitt Romney? Usually, the never-Trumpers are, oh my God, he's on the ropes, Trump can't win, he's going to tank the Republican Party, he's, toxic and whatever, caustic and, a horrible human being, and he's the Grinch who stole Christmas, and he's an orange menace and monster, a Cheeto Mussolini. He's horrible. And you never get an acknowledgement of reality that 80 to 90% of Republicans have a favorable viewpoint of Trump, to acquittals, to impeachment, to acquittals. So, it does the Democratic Party no good to harp on impeachment when he was acquitted twice. And you look at policies, people vote for President Trump for policies. People voted for President Biden because he wasn't Trump. People vote for Democrats because they're not Trump. And without Trump on Twitter, the Democrats have nothing. They don't have this, his presence on Twitter sustained them, bolstered them, gave them a reason to exist, a reason for being. It was like they woke up in the morning, logged onto their Twitter account, and felt this spiritual enlightenment, like they felt good about themselves because they were able to be retweeted, disparaging the orange menace. Do you understand? Now they don't have that, so they have to govern. And what do they have? They're not implementing Medicare for all. They're not passing any legislation. They don't want to pass any legislation. The left, whenever the left grows a spine, they'll break off the Democratic Party and build up the Green Party or the People's Party or another political party. Democrats will not, but see that they have a finely tuned machine. So you have Bernie Sanders and AOC and other politicians who funnel left-leaning angst and frustration and the ideals and the hopes and dreams of really good people. They're I support President Trump, but there are good people on the left. Really good people who actually, the left, a great many individuals on the left really don't dislike Trump. They dislike the Democratic Party a lot more than they do President Trump, okay? But that's a secret that nobody knows. I'm telling you because I came from that world. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I used to be the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Those links are on my website. HAGoodman.com. I come from that world. It's a dysfunctional reality. It's a dysfunctional world. And it exists primarily in cyberspace because in terms of politics, there is no presence. Like AOC and Bernie Sanders are not, they're Democrats. Bernie, he's really a Democrat. You could say independent. You could say democratic socialist who votes alongside Lincoln Project and James Comey. You can call yourself whatever you'd like. If you're on the far left, you can call yourself a democratic socialist or any type of socialist you want. You can call yourself, you can label your political philosophy in any way you'd like. At the end of the day, it's vote blue no matter who. You are simply going to be funneled back into the Democratic. It really doesn't matter. You want Medicare for all, you want this, you want that. Democrats run on incremental change. And the fact that they're not Trump. So, and Mitt Romney, actually, within this New York Times article, Mitt Romney admitted that Trump runs the GOP. This is the first acknowledgement, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this segment is important. Share this everywhere. This is the first acknowledgement that Trump really runs the Republican Party. And there hasn't been an acknowledgement of that fact ever. Like, we're talking the past 4 years. The past 4 years, they've tried to tell the world, well, it's an anomaly and Trump doesn't really run the Republican Party, and, Jeff Sessions will investigate him, and, we have the Lincoln Project people who, by the way, are now the biggest political liability in the known universe. They're completely untouchable, radioactive, completely disgraced. And these are the Bush, you would think that the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld foreign policy hawks would be kicked out of any political party for their miserably failed policies that ruined the lives of an untold number of people. But the Democrats said, hey, come on in. And you had wonderful, morally superior liberal, oftentimes apoplectic liberal Democrats who retweeted the Lincoln Project saying, oh, yeah, even the good Republicans don't like Trump. It's like this was a racket to begin with. They were kicked out of the Republican Party. It took 2 seconds for Donald J. Trump to annihilate Jeb Bush on the debate stage because Bush couldn't even disavow his brother's miserably failed foreign policy. He couldn't even say that the foreign policy was horrendous. And then finally he admitted it. It was too late. And so you had President Trump removing Americans from Syria. You had President Trump ending the longest running military conflict in Afghanistan. Ending covert arms deals. And the Washington Post, of course, said, well, that's what Putin wants. You had President Trump reversing U.S. foreign policy. He was on his way to reversing U.S. foreign policy. And today, President Biden with Justin Trudeau, the headline was, Merci, mon ami. It was Trudeau and Biden, have this love fest. And it's like, oh my God, the relationship between Canada and the U.S. was just it was fine between Trump and Trudeau, even though there was just this public relations, a difference of character or personality. But it wasn't you could say, well, there were economic issues that President Trump addressed, but it wasn't this, horrible, everything was the same. What's the difference? You have 4 years of media, Democrats, millions of people saying Trump has tarnished democracy. He's ending our republic. So tell me what President Biden is doing now. Can you tell me? Can somebody tell me? Let's say you've stumbled upon this channel in this segment and you've lasted this long, 13 minutes in, and you disagreed with me every single second. Can you please, in the comments section, tell me what President Biden has done to save our democracy? Because apparently Trump was going to tear up the Constitution and our democracy. So what has President Biden done? I want to know. What has he done to revive our democracy, to uphold our Constitution, to save our republic? What the has he done? Aside from executive orders that make the left just fall asleep from boredom. Can anyone tell me? Aside from making really multi-millionaire Hollywood actors and celebrities, we know that Bill Maher is happy and Hollywood Twitter is happy and all these everyone in Hollywood is happy. They're so content. So all the topics, if you've noticed that they were outraged nobody's outraged. Yet nothing has really changed at all in terms of what they were complaining about. And you better believe, and the White House press corps, I just can't, this is one of, these are the reasons people vote for President Trump. They might not, for me it was foreign policy primarily, but if President Trump Twitter was the biggest fiasco. He should never have insulted LeBron James. He should never have insulted NFL athletes. But if he just fixes that, becomes a bit more diplomatic, really picks and chooses the battles that he wages, and thinks about like the political consequences, if he just because he allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. He signed prison reform legislation. He focused on economic opportunity zones. But all those accomplishments were overshadowed by his tweets. But I'd like to know what happened to the White House press corps. Now, before it was like this performance art where you had this substitute teacher in this like class, this unruly class that devoted their lives to just trying to take down this individual. Every day was like performance art. Oh my God, it was like this grandstanding and how dare you and you know what? And where's the outrage now? You have the most docile, serene, calm, obedient journalists. Where were these intrepid, like, moral crusaders? Where are they now? Now it's like they were all sitting next to each other with President Trump the past year, blaming him for everything under the sun. And with Biden, it's like one person and then like 50 yards away, another person, and they're all quiet. And there's barely like any outrage. What happened for 4 years is that there was a temper tantrum. And even people who just weren't into politics got caught up in the temper tantrum. And if you didn't vote for President Trump in 2016, and you didn't really care about politics your whole life, suddenly you were like a zealot. You became this zealot. People who never cared about politics suddenly cared. Now they don't care again. It goes to show. It goes to show just exactly, really, like the influence media has on people who really don't care about policies. They just care about wanting their style of leadership, which apparently is not much leadership at all. But they don't want, like, personality and image is extremely important. Perception is what runs politics in America. And the perception of President Trump was that he was this despot and a horrible tyrant, when the opposite is true. And he fed them exactly what they wanted, and he fell into a trap because of his tweets. And because he didn't correct the record when they tried to engage in this this libel and slander, he didn't do enough to say, "Hey, wait a second, that's not true." He tried, but it was never. What he did wasn't enough. He definitely tried, but there were ways that he could have circumvented the propaganda. There were so many creative ways, and he had really bad advisors around him for like the first couple of years. And he should have stood up and defended Michael Flynn. That was the biggest mistake Trump made. The biggest mistake Trump made was not defending Michael Flynn. If you give your tormentors a tiny victory, they'll go for everything. You can't give an inch. They'll take a mile. But President Trump runs the Republican Party, primarily because of populist policies. Tariffs, not the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Ending regime changes. Renegotiating NAFTA into the USMCA. Like, I repeat these accomplishments because they're important. They're important. And by the way, I have every day in the evening a live stream. So be here every evening at like around 8 p.m. I have a live stream once every day. And they're fantastic. We have just a great time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel. President Trump, it's now official, really. Mitt Romney has confirmed, it's a confirmation that President Trump runs the GOP. And it's interesting that it's taken a full term and into another administration for people to finally realize, okay, not only is he not going away, but Republicans want this man, and he's actually going to shape the GOP for the future. They see the Democrats are hilarious. They think like, well, he's gone now. He's not even on Twitter. So therefore, he's no longer going to be around. It's like, no, it's actually better. You've actually saved Trump from himself by banning him from Twitter. Now people can focus on his accomplishments. Now he can focus on just rebuilding the Republican Party, making it a more populist political party that works for everyone. Not just like the same side, like a different side of the same coin. Republicans and Democrats are the same people. That's why the Lincoln Project was retweeted by liberals. They're the same people. The difference is that there's really no difference. Republicans used to be more socially conservative. Now they don't care anymore. But in terms of war and foreign policy, they're pretty much the same people. In terms of major economic issues, they're pretty much the same people. But President Trump is very different from both Republicans and Democrats, which is why he's so popular in the Republican Party, and which is why independents like Trump. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Mittens did a good thing today. Thank you so very much.